Hello and welcome to the Intellectual Idiot Show with your hosts, Max and Ty. We have a very special guest on here today, Tom Burns, the owner and operator of the Green Bay House right next to beautiful Lambeau Field, and also a co-host on the What's Packin' Packers podcast show. So, Tom, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. It's great to talk sports, great to talk Packers. Right, kind of, I guess, tail end of the season, but always fun connecting with other Packer fans online for sure.
Hell yeah! So let's dive right into it. So, tell the people a little bit about what the Green Bay House is, the start of it. What gave you the idea to buy a house, renovate it, and make it into the amazing venue that it is now for people to enjoy?
Yeah, for sure. So it was kind of a not really a joke, a real plan. But I have always wanted to retire in Green Bay and give stadium tours in my retirement. So that was something that my wife and I have talked. We've been married for 13 years. We've talked about this. She was down with it. We both. All things, in all seriousness, we love the area. We love Green Bay. Even outside the stadium, there's so much the area has to offer, which is really great to be around. So we love the area. We always talk about one day, retiring up there. And, about 3 years ago, we started to kind of seriously start to save for, really looking at a house. I think the initial idea was, we could purchase something close and we could rent it out for game days. So it would be kind of like an investment property. And when
almost like an Airbnb,
like an Airbnb, Virgo type of thing where we could rent the house for game days, maybe use it once or twice a year, but primarily an investment property that we could have until the time came around that we decided to move up there at some point. And so I think around 2019, late 2019, early 2020, we really started to kind of hunker down on looking at some properties up there. Right in the middle of COVID, I want to say this was probably around July 2020, summertime or so, July, August, we found a place that came on the market, or had been on the market actually for a while. That was 2 blocks from Lambeau. If you're familiar with Kroll's, we're about 2 blocks, I guess, southwest, right behind Kroll's restaurant over there, off of Canterbury.
Okay, so you have direct views of the stadium from where you are?
Direct views of the scoreboard from the bedroom window,
so nice.
Which is awesome. A little tough in the summertime with the leaves, but a really good view of the stadium. And I remember seeing the listing and telling my wife, like, man, this would be so perfect. It was the upstairs was renovated, completely redone. It was walking distance to Titletown, 6-minute walk up to Lambeau Field. So, we went to look at it. It was the only house we looked at in Green Bay, the only one. We put the offer in, and this was in September 2020, and we're the only offer, and we actually ended up closing under asking price, which is unheard of in the real estate market over the last few years.
Yep.
But
wow,
I think the problem was,
I'm in the process of that now, Tom. I'm in the process of the whole real estate buying thing right now, and I know it's tough. It's really tough.
Really, I think we were very fortunate to have come in at a time where it was September 2020. The stadiums were empty. The pandemic was flaring back up a little bit as we kind of headed into the wintertime. And I think, if you were walking around Green Bay on a Sunday during a Packer game, empty bars, empty parking lots, the last thought on anybody's mind was, hey, I'm going to go buy this game day rental that's 2 blocks from Lambeau Field.
Yeah, that is quite the risk, and that's awesome that you're willing to bet on yourself and willing to bet on this idea, because if you were trying to do that now, I'm sure it'd be damn near impossible.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's if you were looking at a property, the values are up 50 to 100,000 across the board on anything that was around 18 months or 24 months ago. So it's crazy, and it's one of those things where we just got lucky. We were kind of the right place at the right time, and I think it was just meant to be. So we closed in December 2020. We were in there for that stretch playoff run, versus the Rams and Tampa Bay in that season, and And that was kind of, so it's been, coming up on 2 years now. So this is just about, we probably just hit the 2-year anniversary here when we closed.
Oh, that's awesome.
Tom, remind me, was that, that was another year that we choked in the playoffs, right?
It was.
2020,
correct.
2021.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Because that's all of them since 2011.
The first home playoff choke. The first home playoff choke of the last couple of years, for sure. But
well, I mean, Tom, I'll tell you what. I mean, just unbelievable. And I was looking. I mean, everybody who's everybody who tunes into this podcast.
Everyone follow this man. He's got a great Instagram page, the Green Bay House. Such a cool venue.
Yeah, all lowercase, the Green Bay House. It is really cool. What was your favorite project of this house? Because I'm looking at your Instagram. There's so many different things on there. Doing some research before you hopped on too.
Yeah.
You guys got to check this out. This is unbelievable. What was your favorite project of this house?
The inside of the house. The inside of the house is very different from the garage. The inside was originally done. My wife and I. The house was built in '63. So initially, the whole decor, everything was going to be from the '60s era. So, and if you've been to Kohler Lodge in Green Bay, they did an unbelievable job with the pictures, the time frame, the elegance of that hotel. It's done so well. But to be a football theme, but not in your face like you're walking into a sports bar, that's kind of how we wanted the interior to feel. So I actually contacted the son of Vern Beaver. Now, he was a longtime Packers photographer. I contacted him through Lodge Kohler. They gave me his contact information. His son, Jim, who we purchased some photos from for the interior of the house. Really cool photos from the Ice Bowl that his dad took originally back, at the initial game. And we found some other great pieces online through the Public Museum in Green Bay. Has an unbelievable photo archive that we were able to piece together some great shots. So the entire inside decor was kind of, my wife and I spent a ton of time just kind of researching different photos from the 60s, Paul Hornung, Bart Starr, all the classic players, Vince Lombardi, and putting together some really cool kind of tasteful decor for the inside. That was project number one. We did the inside. We remodeled the basement level, which I think there's a few pictures of. We haven't done a ton of photos on Instagram of the inside, which I probably should do. Most of it's been on the garage. And, was a total transformation. The idea came from a tailgate that we went to before the NFC Championship game in 2021. We went down the street. My stepdad's buddies were having a tailgate party. I walked into this garage, and I was just blown away with what they did with it. It was all redone. They had, the wood paneling on the ceiling. It was all exposed, a heater. They had a huge party table in the middle of the room that everyone was kind of gathered around, and couches and TVs and music going on. And I remember telling my wife when we got back, this is such a genius idea. If you're going to have a house, instead of having everyone trampling through the house, on game day, why not have a really nice space set aside where it's very low maintenance. You could do it up really nice. You could have 20, 30. We've had 50 people in that garage at times for a game. Yeah. And you could just have an awesome time and kind of keep everything contained in the outdoor space, which is where you do most of your tailgating anyways. So spring 2021 is really when we started the garage renovation, fully from tearing down the wood paneling, tearing down the ceiling, really going down to the studs and, insulating, drywall, electrical, everything we built up from the ground floor, including, resurfacing the floor, epoxied the floor, installing the heater and climate controlling it year round. And then obviously all the decor and everything. So that was fun because it's just never ending. I think anyone who has a man cave or any type of space, the most fun is you're never really finished, right? You always are looking at things like, all right, what can I do next? How can I finish a wall? It's like, how can I redo it? And so that's
a blast. Tom, if I could interrupt you really quick. Tyler is doing the same process right now, and I'm sure you guys probably exchanged some stuff over Instagram. I just wanted to catch you while it was hot because, I mean, Tyler's bought a couple Airbnb, bought a couple places. He's went in with a couple people on some places out in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Sure. And he actually, you just kind of flipped one of your, going to be Airbnb, right? You kind of flipped one.
Yeah, we're in the process right now, and I don't know, the Great Smoky Mountains, like Gatlinburg area, we're working on we found an A-frame, and we're doing like a complete renovation right now. So I totally know what you mean. Like, it's a never-ending process, and you're just constantly looking to improve in any way that you can.
Yeah, it's
Tyler, you got to tell them about your Game of Thrones house, dude. That one was nuts. Yeah. Like it's similar. I mean, we're talking to Tom here. Tom is the king of theme homes.
You're right.
He's got the Green Bay home. You got to talk to him about the Game of Thrones house.
We found this other cute little rustic cabin in the mountains, and kind of, I don't know why, I just got like Winterfell vibe. I don't know if you've seen Game of Thrones. A little bit,
not a huge,
greatest show ever.
Sorry,
okay.
Not a huge fan, but I've heard of it for sure.
Yeah,
I haven't at all. I have not at all. So you don't worry.
But yeah, we just ended up kind of like you did, like you said, you want to create the experience for the people, and we ended up just kind of going. The normal cabin theme out there, everyone just puts their stuff and, mountain stuff. But we just decided to go full in with the Game of Thrones theme, and people love it.
Yeah.
And, it's all about creating that experience that's like unique. And, I just think that obviously you guys are doing a great job with that. But, I just wanted to get more into like, what do you guys do like on a game day? Do you have people book it out for events, or do you have like random people can just come in, they pay an entry fee?
Yeah,
or like, how does that work?
Long story short, we ended up not going the Airbnb route. That was the initial plan, which I told you guys. And once we started getting in there, once we started doing the work, it was like, this is too nice to rent, probably. This is going to be something where, we just kind of got fully invested into it. And I think once you're at that level, you just got to make the decision. It's like, can you separate yourself from the business side of it? And we weren't going to be able to do that once we kind of did so much to the house. So basically, it really started out family, friends. We park a few cars, and then there might be 5 or 10 people at a tailgate. And kind of what happened over time was, one neighbor would come over, we'd meet him. The next week he'd bring his group of 6 friends. And so what's happened over time is there's kind of a mainstay of 10, 12, 15 people that, are in the neighborhood that we see all the time that are basically over every Sunday. We've got family and friends or season ticket holders that come up, and this has just kind of become their place where they park for every game they go to throughout the season. Yeah. And, we've also met a ton of people online through TikTok, which has been great, through Instagram. So there's been a whole community of Packers fans that we've met that will stop in and come from all over the place. And so we have people from out east, Arizona, Jersey. They come over and they hang out, and that becomes part of their tailgate experiences. They saw the house on and they're coming to a game for the first time, so they spend their tailgate with us, and which is really a pretty special thing when you think about it. We just had a guy from the UP come with his dad, and they spent the whole tailgate party with us at the house. So it's really, I never know what I'm going to get on a given game. I never quite know how many people are going to be there, but generally we'll end up, usually between 20 to 30, 40 people. And it might be most of the people I'm meeting for the first time or people that I've known for a long time. It's the spontaneity of it. It makes it really special. And the connections that you make along the way, not really knowing, am I going to see this person again or not? That's an interesting aspect of it, but it's really neat. It's I wouldn't trade it for anything. And everyone that's come through and that's stopped over has been just really great, very generous. We don't charge. We don't charge an entry fee. We do charge for parking, and we donate all the money to a charity in Green Bay.
Wow, that's so cool.
I've told people this before. It's purely for the love of the game and the Packers community. It's a time where we can gather people together and have a great time and kind of put aside the differences and celebrate a team that we all love and have a great time with each other. So It's all
Wow.
really a lot of fun.
If I could jump in there too, Tom, I think that just really speaks to the embodiment of Green Bay, like the community of Green Bay and the community of De Pere. It's a really tight knit community up there, and it's unlike any other place in the world. Like Green Bay, you don't really get a city that bonds so much over one team and one sport. It's crazy. I mean, you go up to Green Bay, and I live in Milwaukee. Me and Tyler both live in Milwaukee. And, we went to school up in Green Bay, and I think, I don't want to speak for Tyler, but I mean, I know for me, it was even kind of eye-opening to see, like, holy shit, like, if you're not a Packers fan, like, what do you do up here? Like, I mean, it is live, eat, sleep, bleed Packers.
No, you're right.
There. It's nuts, and I think that your home just embodies the community.
Yeah, you're right, and it's like, we, my neighbor across the street, they were the third and the fourth house in the entire development around Lambeau Field. So you're talking about guys that have been here since Lombardi was the coach.
1919?
Yeah, like literally, 60, 70 years in the neighborhood. And we've had guys come over and they'll say, yeah, my dad, went to 50 seasons straight, never missed a home game for 50 years. And that's their lineage of, those are the people that you meet. And they live right down the block. They're still in the house. So you're right. There's nothing like it. There's no other community or city in the country, maybe a couple, that have this type of atmosphere and this community to it. And to be right in the middle of it on game day is pretty unbelievable. To experience that, to watch the game and then open the doors and you're immersed in, the initial kind of immediate reaction of all the fans coming out of Lambeau Field is pretty unbelievable.
Good or bad.
But I can tell you, win or lose, the atmosphere and the vibe doesn't change a lot. I think that's what you realize when you're a part of that community is it's a much bigger picture than the wins and losses. I think when you're alone watching it at the house, a fan can be a little bit more, entrenched in the wins and losses, kind of dictating their happiness of how they feel about this team. When you're in that community every week, it's a piece of it for sure, but there's so much more beyond that that's special about it that it's like at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's a game, but you start to very picture of it, not just the outcome of the game.
Yeah. Wow.
Let me, Tyler, I'm just going to say one more thing too. Let me tell you, like to have a home there by Lambeau Field, right? You want to know what the worst thing in the world is? Going up there to Lambeau for a playoff game when it's snowing.
Trust me.
Blizzarding, negative 10 degrees, and then having to drive your ass back to Milwaukee.
It's the worst.
Now, that is brutal.
Me and Max went to a game. What game did we go to, Max? What was it?
It was the Titans Thursday night.
It was the Titans game Thursday night. And I'm telling you what, you don't want to find an Uber after the game either. We walked around for damn near 3 hours trying to find one. I mean, we see all the cars, like completely standstill traffic everywhere. Yeah, that is.
It's tough. The last drive we did back was after a snow game in November, December 2019 before we had the house, and it was a nightmare situation like that. And I remember, at the time, I didn't know we owned the house a year later, but I think about that a lot. When we do go to a game, it's pretty nice having that. It's about maybe 10, 15 minutes from my seat into the garage, which is, you can't really beat that. It's pretty unbelievable.
You literally cannot beat that. That is unbelievable. Yep. Unbelievable.
Do you guys
go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, I was going to ask him one more question related. Do you guys do anything? Obviously there's only so many home games in the year, and Packers season only lasts a certain amount of time. What do you guys do in the offseason?
We're there all the time. I would say, we're 2 hours from the house. So for us to go up on a weekend is really not a big deal. We use the house like anyone would use a cabin. I know a lot of people have cabins in the Wisconsin area, and they're up there almost every weekend. And in a similar way, we enjoy Green Bay to the extent that we'll go there in February, March, April, June, I would prefer being in Green Bay than, in our area, because there's so much to do, between Titletown, between the stadium district, between
York
the
County
downtown to
access.
Pier. You guys know, everything, the waterways and the bay and everything that Green Bay has to offer is pretty cool. So, in the off season, it's definitely there. It's very enjoyable because it's very relaxed, and we can go for walks and do some things and spend some time with the kids that we have access to that we don't have even where we live in Waukesha. But there is there's a limited, for sure. We get 8 or 9 days a year basically. That's it, and that's a very small amount. And that was part of the decision to not rent the house. Is okay. We have only a limited amount of these opportunities, and, we really want to make the most of them. And so, between my wife and myself, we are there for every home game. And sometimes it's just me, sometimes it's me and her, sometimes it's the whole family. It just kind of depends on what we have going on. But fortunately, we'll have made every one this year, which is pretty special. And we got 3 left, so still a few.
Hopefully we can.
There you go.
I know.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect transition too, because we wanted to talk mostly about the house, but we wanted to talk a little Packers with you. So this season hasn't gone how any of us thought the season was going to go, right? There's been some influx in the offensive line. There's been some problems with the defense, obviously. There's been some problems at the wide receiver position, right? Things are slowly but surely starting to kind of shift in our favor a little bit, getting some rest and a bye week. We needed the people who lost on Sunday to lose. We got a big 49ers game tonight that we need them to win. So I'm kind of curious, what went wrong for the Packers this year? And, what are the chances that we somehow find a way to salvage it and find a way to sneak in here?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, the biggest disappointment has been the defense for sure. And at times that you look at a game like the Eagles game, 300 plus yards on the ground.
Oh,
it was just, that's not championship football. That's not close. But I think the biggest thing, and I've said this before, is just the lack of veteran leadership on the defense, I think, is the most apparent problem with this team. If you look at in 97, the 90s, when they brought, and I'm not saying, a Reggie White caliber player is easy to find. I know that's not the case. But when they brought in Reggie White in the 90s, they went from, I think, a 23rd or 24th ranked defense to a top 5 defense in like a period of 1 year, just adding one guy. And, similar effect with Charles Woodson, similar effect when you added Julius Peppers. When you have a Hall of Fame caliber player that's a leader on the defensive side, that can come in and provide, stability and leadership to your unit, that makes a big difference. And I think that defense is lacking that presence because they're young. And frankly, I think they're a little immature. Even with, a guy like Jair, I think his immaturity you've seen at times this year, which has been disappointing. And so to me, defense has been tough. I think offensively, it's been maybe more of a mess than what we had anticipated. But in hindsight, maybe we could have looked at that and said, yeah, that's probably to be expected when you've got some injury-riddled players, pairing alongside some rookie wide receivers. I think we kind of maybe overestimated what they were going to be capable of going into the season. But for me, I think if I'm looking at next year, what I'm looking at is, can you make a big swing like a Fletcher Cox type free agent, right? A guy who's 28, 29, 30 years old, powerful defensive presence, who can be a linchpin type guy for your defense, who can get people in line and hold them accountable. And then, look at what the Eagles did with A.J. Brown this year. Look at what he was able to add to a young receiver core where, you can bring a big guy in and, pair him up with 2 young guys in Dobbs and Watson and really have an explosive attack. So I think they're not, I don't think they're far away from being a 10 or 11 win team next year. I really don't. But they do have some big gaps. It's like where they do have holes, they're big ones, and they're going to be tough to fill in 1 year, I think.
Yeah, and something that really resonated with me there of what you said, like the veteran presence on the defense, like it obviously was. I think it was a huge, like it wasn't a great move to let go of Zadarius. I thought he brought a great presence of leadership. Obviously, the energy, the sacks. I mean, he's done really well in Minnesota this year, and look at them. So it makes me wonder what the season could have looked like if we did keep a guy like Zadarius Smith, and to keep everyone in line, because obviously our defense is young and immature.
Yeah, in hindsight, looking at it at the time, I didn't think that was as bad of a move as what it maybe it came out to be. I think you thought, okay, for what they were able to retain on the defensive side, having to only sacrifice like Zadarius Smith, I think the thought that I had was like, well done, Gutekunst, because initially it felt like the defense could have been decimated. They end up signing Razul. They signed, Jair. They brought back a lot of guys. Preston Smith got a new deal and restructured Kenny Clark. So it's like my expectations of the defense were so high, and that's I think the most disappointing. If they could add maybe a Zadarius, but I think even a level up on that next year. Who knows? Yeah. Who knows? But
that'll be huge.
For sure.
Yeah. I think that, like, too, Tyler, like, adding on to your point, like, you had to think of our cap situation in a way too, right? We made it to the NFC Championship without having Zadarius Smith all year last year, or not the NFC Championship. I'm sorry, but we made it to another 13-3 win season, or I'm sorry, what were we last year? 13-3, right? 14-3,
yep.
Whatever our record was, 17 games, right? So we did that all without Zadarius Smith. He was hurt all year, so it's kind of tough to say that you got to sign Jair, you got to give Rodgers $50 million a year, you got to do all this stuff, and then you expect to go out and be able to sign anyone and everyone. It's tough. It's really tough. But, I would say that, like, it's been very frustrating watching our defense this year, watching them struggle so immensely. And, I will say Joe Barry has taken a beating this year. And I think he deserves a lot of it. I will say that. But I refuse to sit here and say it's Joe Barry's fault that the Packers allowed 360 yards on the ground. It's not Joe Barry's fault that Jair gets absolutely smoked on the outside 3 times against the Chicago Bears. Like, those are matchups that Jair wins 10 times out of 10. Like, there has been a lot of stuff that has gone wrong on our defense this year that I think it's easy to just always throw the coach under the bus. And trust me, I think we need to change a defensive coordinator.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong. But I really think Joe Barry has taken a beating this year, and I think that players have underperformed on the defensive side of the ball, which is frustrating. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think where Joe Barry's failed is clearly he doesn't have his stars engaged in the defensive plan. You could tell that in the way that they carry themselves on game day. I don't think Jair Alexander is a guy who's engaged in the defense or is buying into the philosophy that Joe Barry is, and that's been an issue since I think week 4, week 5. There were some cracks in the wall of maybe some grumblings that he wasn't happy about how he was being utilized in the scheme. So this isn't anything new. I think it's more obvious now that we're in the latter part of the season. But yeah, I think clearly they need a new voice at this point. They need something. They need a new spark. I do think they need to shake it up a little bit and find a way to get guys more engaged in the defense, because when I look at that unit, I see a lot of guys who seemingly are okay going out there and kind of playing for themselves and playing, they're, satisfied with their own success, individual
especially
success.
Jair.
Especially Jair. And
he drives
I
me
hate to
nuts.
keep picking on him, but for a guy who was touted as maybe the second best player on this team and maybe the best cornerback in the league, he's been from a leadership standpoint and a maturity standpoint this year, pretty disappointing. And so, I feel like somehow this defense has regressed back, several years from where we thought they would be, which is unfortunate. But hey, here figure out a way to get better next year. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think too, kind of pivoting over, and we're winding down here. But one thing I wanted to bring up is there's obviously a big debate and a little bit of a pickle going on for the quarterback position.
Yep.
So it's a question that always has to be asked, and we always have to talk about it, right? So Rodgers, he clearly can still play football at a high level. I mean, he's shown that this year. He's taken a step back a little bit, but people make that a Rodgers thing when in reality, I think it's a team thing. I mean, maybe Rodgers is trying to do a little bit too much, and yeah, he has been a little bit off, but he's been banged up. He's got a thumb, he's got a rib, he's got a lung, he's got a back, he's got a head. I don't know. He's got everything. Right. So, I mean, I guess we kind of look at the quarterback position going into 2023 as we still have a 4-time MVP winning quarterback that we have locked in for quite some time. I've heard so many different things about his contract. Do you know the actual details on that? Is it like 1 year guaranteed left, or is it 4? Is it 3? Like, what is it?
I think it's essentially next year is a big year where they're going to owe him a lot of money one way or the other. Guaranteed money-wise, cap hit, the whole thing is going to be astronomical. So you almost are in a situation where he's going to have to play, I think, next season because you're going to pay for it one way or the other, right? So I think that's kind of what the situation they're in. I think when they did the extension, it was like a 3-year, but most of the money is like over the next, over the first couple of years, I think is how that plays out. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, just bizarre. So what do you want to see happen? What do you want to see him. Love under center? Do you want to see Rodgers get traded? Do you want to see Rodgers under center with year 2 with Dobbs and Watson? Like there's a lot that we could talk about positives and in many different ways about the situations that could play out. But I think there are also some things that there's a lot of uncertainty and questions going in. So what do you want to see happen?
I think my perspective might be a little bit different than others, but one, let's keep in mind this guy did just win back-to-back MVPs. So I think it's tough to, and I know some people want to just push this guy out the door. I think, to push a backpack MVP player out the door is, that's a tough thing. I've said this before. My personal feeling is I think a injured Aaron Rodgers probably gives you a better opportunity than a healthy Jordan Love on most days to win a game. I do firmly believe that. Now, that being said, if I had a preference as to who's going to be the quarterback through the remainder of the season and who I would like to see starting at quarterback next year, in a perfect world, you'd say I'd like to see Jordan Love have the opportunity. I don't think that the Packers are realistically going to be competitive for a Super Bowl in the next 2 years, which is the window of time that Rodgers has left on his contract. And if that's the case, then why not give yourselves more opportunity to evaluate Love now, where you have a couple more years that he's under his contract, and you can start to rebuild this team and start to rebuild the defensive unit and get him some reps with, Dobbs and Watson, some of these young receivers, and kind of start looking towards the future. And frankly, that's the same way I felt at the end of Favre's tenure. It was like, okay, hey, here we are. We made that great run, but I think we all kind of saw the flashes of what Aaron Rodgers could do. I think we were all a little bit concerned that the longer Favre lingers around, the dicier it could get about, Rodgers' future with the team. And I think at a certain point, you just have to make the tough transition to the new guy and start to rebuild for the future. Because that's where I think this team is their defense is 3 years away. It really is. They're not going to be a top 10 defense next year. Especially with Rashawn Gary's injured ACL. Who knows how long that could take. So it's going to take some time, and I think if you're going to go through that rebuild, why not do it with a young guy that you could evaluate? Now, that being said, what is telling is if the Packers were confident in Love last year before they did the extension, then they really had every opportunity to blow Aaron Rodgers out of the door at the beginning of last season. They didn't. And, they fought.
People forget about that.
And
People forget about that.
They had a guy who, it wasn't like Favre wanted to come back. It's not like he was getting off the plane and walking into the locker room and wanted to play. You had a guy just the opposite who was dying to get out of here. You had a guy who, You didn't have to, force a trade. You didn't have to tell him, hey, we're not going to start you. We're going to go with Love. They had every opportunity last offseason, if they wanted to basically say, let's get through this year, 2021, and then we'll trade you, we'll release you, we'll do whatever we need to do, whatever you want, and you can go do your own thing. Instead, the Packers went all in. They invested everything from Gutekunst rebuilding the relationship over a year, which kudos to him, an unbelievable turnaround from where we were going into that season, started 2021. But, they really went all in a way that they must have felt like this was undoubtedly their best shot. And I think they probably knew the risks that, hey, if this guy plays through this contract, you could see Jordan Love walk out of the building. And they must have known that would be okay, or felt that that outcome was going to be fine. So I think it's hey, like why can't we just end these quarterback transitions gracefully? It's like, here we go again. I mean, we're literally going down the path of this is Favre and Rodgers all over again. But hey, I guess it's a good problem to have. But at the same time, it's exhausting because it is a very divisive topic in the fan base for sure. It's tough. Yeah. It's tough. But hey,
it's so tough.
I love Rodgers. I really do. I think he catches a lot of unjust heat, for things that are ridiculous. But at the same time, if I'm just looking as a realistic fan with where this team is right now, I'd love to see Love get some opportunities this year. I'd love to see him start next year. Unfortunately, I just don't think that's going to be in the cards. I think they're going to play Rodgers through the end of next season for sure, and then we'll see what happens when you have Love coming into a fifth-year option.
I'd love to see if we lose any games this year, because we need to win out for even a possibility to make the playoffs. So if we lose just this one game, we need to put Love in there. It has to happen.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think at that point, and I've said it, if we are eliminated from playoff contention, I think Rodgers probably gets surgery on his thumb. You're not.
And he'll be fine with sitting.
Yeah, you're not going to run the guy out there with a broken thumb and cracked ribs. You're going to sit him down, and Love's going to play a few games. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens here.
So I want to end with this, Tom. But we need Washington or the Giants to lose 3 out of 4 games.
Yep.
And we need Seattle to lose 2 out of 4.
Yep.
Right? Seattle has some tough teams coming up. I want to see if I still have this picture. Okay, here we go. Ready? So New York or Washington have to lose 3 out of 4.
And they play each other this weekend. Right?
Keyword.
Yep.
And they play each other this weekend.
I'm thinking it's going to be the Commanders to lose 3 of 4. I'm thinking it's going to be them.
Hear me out. So New York plays Commanders, Vikings, Colts, and Eagles. Washington plays the Giants, the Niners, the Browns, and the Cowboys.
Lose.
And then Seattle plays the Niners, Chiefs, Jets, and Rams.
Yeah, the Seahawks, I mean, they have 3 really tough matches.
They do.
So it's possible, but
it is.
I feel like there's this strange way that, like, I know we don't control our own destiny, but we sure as hell have a shot if we win out, I think. With those statistics that need to happen, I think we sure as hell have a shot. But that's a big but.
I think I heard that if everything goes according to how Vegas's favorites are, the Packers will end up 8-9, 1 game out of the playoffs with like the 16th pick in the draft, which is it's the worst just about the worst outcome you could possibly ask for. But hey, crazier things have happened in the NFL. I think the issue is Washington's a good team. I think Seattle and the Giants are on a down. I think they could lose 3 and 2 on 4 for sure. Yeah. Washington seems like a very real team that's gone in and already beat the Eagles at home. And let's be honest, I mean, it's not like the Packers have a cakewalk either. They've got 4 very tough games. Frankly, they've got
Dolphins, Vikings,
Baker
Lions.
Mayfield, the savior of LA, all of a sudden.
The head butter.
Yeah. Baker Mayfield, who gave them a run last year on Christmas Day when he was with the Browns. Almost won that game in Lambeau Field in the middle of winter. And they've got a tough Vikings and Dolphins and Lions team. So it's we'll see what happens. But, hey, it definitely would have been nice to have a couple more games at the beginning of the season because I think they are hitting their stride, at least offensively right now. I don't think they're as bad as the record states, but, they really let some opportunities fall through their hands at the beginning of the year, and it cost them big time. Not having any tiebreakers is just it's a killer for sure.
It's brutal.
Yep.
Awesome.
We appreciate you coming on, Tom. I know you wanted to mention one last thing before we hop off. Charity raffle.
Yeah, that's right. And if you guys can make it up or even come up and watch the game at the house, we're hosting a big tailgate on January 1st. So it's at 10 o'clock, and then we'll be watching the game in the garage. But this is something we started last year with kind of an impromptu tailgate where we pulled together some raffle items that were donated. We purchased some items, and basically we just held a big tailgate raffle. We had chili, brought in, catered, and last year we ended up raising $4,800 for Fisher House, which is at the VA,
awesome.
and totally blew away my expectations of what we could do out of a little tailgate party. And this year, we're kind of coming back even bigger. We partnered with Sierra Delta, which is a group that's based in the Madison area. And what they do is they pair veterans with companion dogs and basically provide training and support and resources to help veterans that are in need of not just service dogs, but really just want a companion animal. It's just having a dog has been very positive for a lot of veterans in terms of their treatment and their lifestyle, and provides a lot to them, even if they may not be injured or in need of service dog, but just having a dog as a pet, and then having the support and community of the programs that they offer. So they do unbelievable work, and we did a big dog walk around Lambeau Field with them back in August before the preseason game. So we had a huge group
Really cool.
at the house, and then we did a big walk with the dogs around Lambeau Field, took some pictures at the Veterans Memorial and in front of the stadium. But yeah, we're hosting that event, and we've got over 20 items of memorabilia, 3 Hall of Famers, Charles Woodson, Donald Driver, Jerry Kramer signed photos, mini helmets, jerseys, just a ton of stuff that we're raffling off. And, $20 a ticket gets you in every single item. And basically, we're raffling off a ton of stuff on the first. So it's and hopefully we can exceed.
Cool.
Yeah, hopefully we can exceed what we raised last year. That's the hope. So we'll see what happens.
And that's
awesome.
Game against the Vikings. So if anyone's going to the game against the Vikings, make sure to stop by the Green Bay house.
And you don't even need
Say hi
to be
to
present
Tom.
to win. So we could do. We'll ship items out. People can buy online and still win. So it's a lot of fun.
Unfortunately, Ty or myself won't be able to be there. Tyler will be in Asia.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will be traveling as well. So we are both going to be gone, but we wish that we could be there, Tom. We really do.
Next time, guys.
I mean,
sure.
what a cool thing. What a cool thing you guys are doing over there, and how much fun was this interview? Like, that was great. So thank you so much for hopping on.
Anytime.
We really, really appreciate it. Again, make sure you follow Tom and Aaron on Instagram, on all of their platforms. And Tom, what's your podcast again that you're rocking with?
So me and
What's
my
Packin',
man,
right?
Yep, What's Packin', my guy, Godchild.
What's Packin'?
He's a character. We don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, including the Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers controversy for sure. But but I think it's an example of I think you could have two differing views and still kind of come together and find some common ground. But that's what it's all about, is just building the community. So
Exactly.
Awesome. Tune into What's Packin'. Awesome. Well, thank you, Tom, for joining. We really
Thank you, guys.
appreciate it. That will be everything from the Intellectual Idiots today. So, Ty, close us down.
Thank you very much, Tom. Have a great night.
All right.
And,
Hot out.
We'll see you guys. Take care.
Awesome.
see ya.
Bye.